you clicked because you are just as nosy about this as I was before I purchased these. They had me. They had me. When these were announced, these are the new CLIONADH Paleo, Archeo, and Oceano palettes. I was like, meh, okay, cool for them. I want to have more singles. But, okay, a little bit of background story. It's completely unresearched because it's like, it's past, why bother? But Archeo and Paleo are palettes that were around already, and if I understood that correctly, they look completely different. So these are new versions, and they added the Oceano palette to this. These are 12 pen eyeshadow palettes with mattes. I never tried mattes from CLIONADH. Shimmers, metallics, we have velvet satin, we have a foiled, we have duochromes, we have, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. For me, completely new because all I tried from CLIONADH so far are the stained glass chromes. And here, one thing ahead, some people were like, yeah, but you do not have stained glass in them. Why should we pay so much money for them? For context, these two are 86 euro. This one is 74, so quite expensive. The bundle is 208? Or exact, no, I think it's 200, like 200 euro. Stained glass is just a line from CLIONADH. Just because here are not stained glass eyeshadows in there does not make them any worse or so. It's just a line of eyeshadows that they do inspired by stained glass. So now that we talked about this, let's talk about why I ended up getting these. They haunted me in my dreams. I was not really feeling it when I saw these palettes. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can easy skip that. Like, let's invest that money in something else. But the longer I looked at them, the more I saw looks with them. I started to consume YouTube videos about them. I started to search on Instagram specifically swatches from people who are not swatch content creators. And no. I just gave up because I thought about this palette or these three palettes constantly. I wanted to have them. I was not able to just argument that away from me to not justify that purchase. So this was definitely nothing like an impulse purchase by the time it launched. I think I ordered them like a week or so after they launched, and to be honest, I am very surprised. I wanted to say excited, but I'm not. I'm surprised that they're still available because usually when CLIONADH is launching something, poof, gone. And there's even a Reddit thread about this, why no one is really talking about this. And I think the main opinion from what I have read there is they are too expensive. People are not willing to pay so much money for an eyeshadow palette. What I think is a bit hypocrite because at the same time they will spend $70 on a Pat McGrath quad. Just saying. Or they're spending, I don't know, how much is a Natasha Denona quad for you in the States? Because I pay 72 euro for it and they're in the same price range. And honestly, the quality is not as good as in this one. Just my thoughts on this. But yeah, I'm surprised that these are not sold out yet because I really thought that these will be gone in like days or so. But lucky for me, they're still here. Maybe not so good for your wallet because they are still available. And if you fall in love with one or more here in this video, sadly you can still purchase them. But let's make it short. I have with each palette 2 looks in this video. So you will get in total 6 eyeshadow looks It's a bit of a longer video. You voted for that on Instagram. Without any more rambling, let's head now into the tutorials. I'm starting with the Paleo palette. So let's take a look inside. This is a blue and like earthy, warm toned palette, and honestly, just from looking at it, I get a tad bit excited because it does kind of soothe my current need for super warm browns. I'm getting into fall mood. Like, don't get me wrong, it's fall Christmas here in my heart all the time. But it sets that one, but it also is tickling my love for blues. And I think these blues are very, very interesting. And I see how you not only stay in that first or second row, you can mix and match. With the palette, if you haven't seen it, every palette is like in groups. So I cut it out from the cardboard packaging and glued it on the back. And this row basically is divided into the Ice Age row, the one on the top, and the Meteor Storm row, the one on the bottom. With the other palettes, the groups are a bit different in like quads and trios actually. So let's talk about the swatches a bit. Just initial thoughts when swatching these, they feel great. I myself have never used CLIONADH swatches, and I am beyond excited for these because they feel super soft and smooth, and I just can hope that they go on as well as they did here in the swatches. It does not have stained glass shades. We have shimmers, duochromes, mattes, we have normal multi-chromes, velvet satins, and a foil shade. That's also a reason why I glued it here on the back, because it says what kind of formula this is. So I'd say let's start with the first look. So I'm starting with Magma, and I use this as my transition color. That's very, very intense. Wow. They have a lot of kickback, like a lot. I'm now going into Tectonic. Okay, wow. They have very, very much kickback. Oh my god. And Tectonic goes here in that outer crease part and outer lid. And then I just blend it towards the center, not through the complete crease. By the way, if you hear music, I'm sorry, it's from the bathroom. My husband is currently showering, and we have HomePods all around the house, and of course we blast music through them. I'm very satisfied with the matte so far, and I don't feel the need to add in something else, so I go into the shimmers now. I also have a new glitter glue I want to test. This is from CLIONADH, I think is the name. It's an eyeshadow brand, and currently when you get them on Look Healthy store, these new palettes from them, you get a free eyeshadow primer or glitter glue with it. So now tap into this shade. I don't know, is it Archeo or Archeo? Or I have no clue. And I apply this here on the outer part of the lid. And now I go into Crater, which is a foiled. And I use that on the rest of the lid. And swipe it here on top of that multi-chrome. I skipped the liner today, I'm not feeling linery. I just go directly into Tectonic again. And I smudge this now here on the lower lash line. And I also tap into Magma again. And I use this to buff it out and just mimic what I have on the upper lid. I now go into Epoch, I think is the right name. It's also one of the multi-chromes. And I tap this here as inner corner highlight on. And here we have the first look. On my lips, I'm wearing the Charlotte Tilbury lip liner in Pink Venus. I filled that in with the Charlotte Tilbury Kissing lipstick in Candy Chic. And then I felt like this is a bit too pink, so I applied on top the Half Magic Beauty Magic Drip Lip Gloss in Frosty Bitch. It's glittery and it has a tad bit of a coppery sheen. I still think this lip is a bit too pink, but I don't have time to take it off now. I like it. Like, first impression wise, with keeping it in this lower row is really, really good. I am beyond impressed with the mattes. I like how these shimmers work. I like how everything just came together, and I'm very excited now for look number 2 with the blues. So for look number 2, I'm starting with Pangea. I think in German it would be pronounced Pangea. And that one I start to blend here on the inner crease part and up in the transition area and bring it towards the center. And I thought the blue lighting is kind of vibing today with the blue look that I planned to do. I now tap into fossil. I blend this also in the crease, starting in the center, bringing it out. And I do not buff it too high up in the transition area. But with whatever is left, I do kind of darken the outer V a bit. And I now very, very carefully tap into moraine. That was a bit too much. And I, with a super light hand, start to dust this in the transition area and blend this on top of all the shades. This is a very, very interesting blue in this combo. It kind of turns everything into a, I don't know, I'm thinking of a old dark fish tank in an apocalyptic scenario. I don't know if that makes any sense. And while that description sounds really, really bad, I just revamp the outer crease color with that purpley shade. So glitter glue is down and I now go into trench. This is a velvet satin. And I apply this here on the outer lid area. And then I blend out the edges a bit. Honestly, this is so satin, you could probably use this as a crease shade. I now go into Ice Core. This is one of the multi-chromes. And I tap this now on the rest of the lid. And where trench is, I just keep on tapping it on top of that line so that it looks like it melts into each other. To make it not too much blue and blue on the lower lash line, I now apply the Cappuccino Cupid's Arrow from Nabla Cosmetics as my waterline liner thing. And I smudge this here along, very sloppy because we will go in with some mattes right away. So I go into Moraine again, and with that shade I start to smudge it all along the lower lash line. And I tap into Fossil again, blend that out down further. Not gonna lie, there was a lot of fallout from that matte shade from blending it with a pencil brush. It kind of just flicked off the brush because they were so powdery and kickbacky. I now go into Glacial. This is a shimmer, and that one is my inner corner highlight for this look. And here we have now the second finished look with the Paleo palette. On the lips, I used Charlotte Tilbury Super Size Me Lip Liner, and I filled it in with the Givenchy Rouge Interdit in the shade 10, the one from the Focus box. I am very, very happy with both looks. Let me check that one because I'm digging that vibe. I love that I was able to go quite warm and light with this palette, but at the same time, you see here quite dark, cool toned, heavy, dirty, fish tanky, apocalyptic style. I don't know where I made this up in my head, but it kind of is there. I like this palette and I am beyond impressed with the mattes in here and with every single formulation. I'm curious. I can't wait to dig in now into the other two palettes. So without any further rambling, you will get a full-on summarized review at the outro. So let's head over to the, I think Archeo is the next one. Let's tackle now the Archeo palette. So this is honestly a tad bit more challenging for me than Paleo because I feel like this color story, it is a bit all over the place, isn't it? I get the theming, but I also don't, you know? This palette has a bit of a different like grouping. In the Paleo palette we had the first row and the second row. Here we are going in quads. As you can see, we have the ritual quad, the excavation quad, and the topography quad. And let me just take, okay, the quads are basically in these groups. So these four, and these four. They don't make sense to me. I mean, this quad makes perfect sense for me. This quad could make sense too, but this, I think I'm just a bit distracted by the weird pops of blue in this palette, but I will of course do my very, very best to make good looks with this. 2, not 3 as the quad suggests, but it will be 2. I'm excited. So formula wise, we have one row of mattes, and then we have multi-chromes, metallics, a duochrome, and that's it. No foiled, no satin shimmers. Let's take a look at these swatches, and I think these swatches just again show a bit my confusion, because even, you know, usually when I see palette like this and I don't see the story in this palette, I don't see it coming together. When I swatch them, I usually get a nice picture of the palette, but even with the swatches, I'm just a bit confused with this color story. I hope that this will be just destroyed then when I start the looks and then I see the picture. But so far, just from looking at it, I don't see it yet. I'm also a bit afraid that in those looks, I will not incorporate the blues because of my confusion, but I try my very, very best to incorporate them. So I have actually no plan what to do, so let's roll with look number 1. And I'm starting with the shade Monolith here. And since here is no real transition color, I place Monolith very concentrated in my crease. And then I just blend it up towards the brow to just diffuse the concentrated pigments. I now go into the shade Erosion, and that one I concentrate here on the outer parts and a bit in the crease. I really enjoy about these mattes that they have the same building capabilities as, for example, the better Pat McGrath mattes. You can do dimensional one shadow blends with these because you can either blend them out so you diffuse them very soft, or you can rebuild them and then have a darker version of that. And that's working here too. So I applied my glitter glue now, and I go into Glyph. It's a multi-chrome. And I apply this on one half, on the outer half of my lid. And then I also go into Artifact. This is a metallic. And I apply this on the rest of the lid. And as per usual, where both meet, I just tap it on top. That's a very pretty brassy shade. With no additional pigment, I now just go through the crease to diffuse the shimmer pigments a bit more. On the waterline, I'm now applying the ColourPop BFF Cream Gel Liner in the shade Get Lucid. I force myself now to incorporate the blue, so I go into Dead Sea. And I apply this across the lower lash line. And then I drag it out a bit. Here on that inner corner part, I like elongate the lower lash line a bit. So it has a bit of an artsy feeling. Now I take a pencil brush with that same shade. And I very carefully apply this and smudge it out a bit. I think I've never done anything like this. And to break the scheme even more, I go now into Sulfur, and Sulfur is a duochrome, and that one I apply very, very concentrated this time as inner corner highlight. And here we have now the first finished look. On the lips, I'm wearing Charlotte Tilbury lip liner in Icon Baby, and I topped it off with the Dior Addict lipstick in the shade 521 Dior Elita. It's a neutral mauve. I am really in between chairs because on one side I'm like, this look is it. This is a style that I haven't tried yet. I know that a lot of people do these like under eye cat line things with black liner or black eyeshadow. I never tried this because I'm not a liner girl. And I'm not sure if this is really my vibe. But on the other side, I'm like, this is it. This is really, really it. So I'm happy that I actually forced myself to use this weird matte blue, and with the second look you will see in a second, I will force myself to use this light blue. So far, first look impression wise, same excellent quality as in the Paleo. So I'm very excited to do now look number 2. So for look number 2, I'm going into Lichen. Lichen, it's Lichen. In German, it would be Lichen. So I have no clue what that word is. And I apply this as my very weird transition color. I have no clue where this look will be going. But I think we have our first not so well performing shade. Look at the patchy mess, but could be the brush too. Maybe the brush is too flimsy for that shade. Let me take another one. So this is still fluffy, but not as flimsy because it is a bit bigger at the bottom and where it's glued together. And with that brush, it goes on better. Okay, so it was a brush mistake. It's a good general tip. If your darker eyeshadows or certain eyeshadows go on very weird, maybe try a different brush. Maybe that brush is not it for this formulation. I now go into Fragment, and not gonna lie, I actually planned to do it the other way around, but then I started and now I roll with that. And I start to blend Fragment on the inner half of the crease and flick it outwards. I wiped off that brush a bit and now I go into Lichen again. No clue if that's right. And I use this to build up the darkness here on the outer parts. And I have a bit of glitter in my crease because one of the brushes was not very clean. I now go into Terrain. This is a multi-chrome and I tap this on here on the outer part of the lid. And then I go into Sundial. This is a metallic. And I apply this on the rest of my lid. And you know where they meet, I just tap it on to mimic a gradient. I don't really know if I have a liner that matches this look, so I just take a brightening pencil. This is the Victoria Beckham one. And I just use it to brighten the waterline. I don't know if you can tell, but I just saw that my Fragment shade has white, like gritty specks throughout. I don't think this is like mold or anything. I doubt it highly. I think this is unblended, like unmixed specks of powder. Okay, so I just messaged CLIONADH, so I hope I get an answer in this video. As I said, I don't think this is mold. It just looks like there are grits of the powder that were unmixed or not mixed fine enough. So the powder works completely fine. I'm curious if they will answer during the span of filming the video. I take Fragment nonetheless, and now I blend it across the lower lash line. I now go into Nomad. Kind of want to use that yellow here, and I apply Nomad on the inner part of the lower lash line. I just need my depth, so I go into Lichen again and I press that here in the lower lash line, the outer third, rub it a bit and connect here. Don't want to have too much of the color, just a little bit of darkness. Now let the inner corner highlight shine. I said to you I will use the weird blues, so I go now into Neo, and that one is the inner corner highlight for this look. Neo, by the way, is a multi-chrome, and I am surprised on how pretty this is. And here we have now the finished look. On the lips, I'm wearing the Sephora lip stain liner in the shade Classic Beige. I lined the lips, filled them in a tad bit, and then I applied the Dior lip oil in the shade Peach Glow that I feel like should be decluttered because there are like specks. Okay, but it smells fine, so that's okay. This palette gives me a tad bit of headaches. When I look at this palette, I do not see the vision, But while application of the shadows, I see the vision. So I am able to pull off nice looks. And I'm pretty sure that if I will do a third or fourth look, I would still be able to do something that is different from the first two that I did. But since I do have a bit of a problem seeing the looks just when I look at the palette, it's not, it does not give me a lot of joy. I do want to mention though that in terms of mattes and the metallic shimmers and the whatever here, the multi-chromes, there is no issue at all. They are also very powdery, they are very pigmented, but they blend out very easy. At this point now, when I'm filming this, I have not gotten an answer to the little gritty specks here in the shade, but I will update you if this happens when I film the video. You know, I have 2 more days in my timeline to film plus the outro and intro. So I think it's very clever with a palette like this that they group the shades into quads, and I think this will make creating looks for a lot of people much easier. I am not following any guidelines like this because I always roll with the flow, but the way these shades work together and the way I combined them, even with the weird blues, I enjoyed. So now, talking about weird blue, let's head to the last looks of this video with the Oceano palette. I think it's not a big surprise when I tell you that the Oceano palette is actually the one that I am the most excited about. I mean, not a fan of these pops of orange, peach, and that one, although it makes sense since this is complementary color. And if we think about the ocean, like the sea, everything, then I see that because, you know, the sun is hitting the water and then it's reflecting. And I think there will be some really nice looks in this. The first palette was divided into 2 rows. The second one we had into quads, and Oceano one is actually done into trios. So we have the Island Shores trio, the Riptide trio, Coastal Haven trio, and the Marine Discovery trio. But how are they sorted? Okay, the trios are made like this is one, this is one, this is one, and this is one. Of course, I'm not doing it like the trio suggests. I'm just doing it the way I want. And in this palette, we have, yeah, the mattes, we have multi-chromes, duochromes, 1 velvet satin, and that's it. No foiled, which is sad because the foil in Paleo was chef's kiss. But now let's talk about the swatches. I love these swatches. They look so stunning. And when I did these, I immediately felt it. So, you know what? We should start now. We should start. I want to mention that 2 of the mattes, Undertow and Lagoon, they are labeled as mattes, but these are mattes with slightest bit of shimmer in them. I'm starting with Archipelago this time. And I apply this in the crease and transition area. I now go into Starfish, very kickbacky. And this one goes into the inner crease part up to the center. And now I go into Manta Ray, and that one goes on the outer V and outer crease. I now go into Seagrass, and I apply this on the outer half, or more so the 2/3. Oh, and Seagrass is a metallic. Now I go into Plankton. That's a multi-chrome. And that one goes on the rest of the lid and gets blended on top of Seagrass. I want to have something that matches this dirty vibe. How about this one? This is Wildcat from the BFF line from Colourpop. It is a greenish gold. I just do it. Oh yeah, that matches. That's fine. I go down to Manta Ray again and I smudge this across the lower lash line. I also go into Archipelago. I had to Google how to pronounce that word. And I use this to blend that out. I now go into Mauna Loa. I'm sorry if I butcher these names. I apply as my inner corner highlight. I smudge it a bit on the lower lash line and a bit in the crease as per usual. And that is, by the way, a multi-chrome. And this is now the finished look. On the lips, I today skipped any lip liner and I just applied the Pat McGrath Astra Blue Star Lip Fetish Balm. It's basically translucent, and I lost the cap. It's basically translucent, bit grayish tone tint with some blue specks of glitter. So it's not really visible, but I did not really know what else to pair with this eye. And I do have a bit of a thing here on the lip because I think I used an expired lip product. When you look at this palette, would you expect this look? Actually, me neither. That's why I focused on these more off shades. Manta Ray is in the blue family, but it's also more off. And do you know what kind of vibe I have? Let me paint the picture. I don't know how it was when you were a kid, but when I was younger, we had in our hometown and around my hometown those little lakes. They were not truly lakes. Just googled how the translation is in English, because in German it's Baggersee, and it literally translates into a quarry lake or quarry lake, whatever. And these were not the cleanest usually. They were fine to go swimming in, although a lot of them were forbidden to swim in. But when you're young, you just do it, you don't care. And actually, this, what I have here on my eye, is kind of the same dirty, mossy vibe that I have from that water when the sun hits it. And don't be afraid, the water was not green like that, but this dirty vibe. And I think if I've added a bit more of Manta Ray and maybe even a bit of Undertow, I would have nailed that color of this water in the Quarry Lake spot on. I don't know if my description makes sense. I was just, for no reason, just hit with this memory of like 15 or 16 years ago. And before I lose myself completely in old youth memories and weird description of apparently green lakes that I was swimming in, let's head over to the last look of the video and look number 2 with Oceano. I'm honestly a bit sad that this is the last look and the last time for, well, probably a longer time that I'm going to touch this, because spoiler, I have planned out looks and palettes to use for videos for the next 3 weeks or so. So I'm quite busy. So let's enjoy this very last look here. I'm starting with Under Towel. Oh God, they're so powdery. It is, honestly, it gets a bit annoying sometimes because when you just touch it, it's like constant build up. And then my mirror was dirty. And this one I apply in the crease and outer V area. But whatever is sticking on the brush, I just use to basically diffuse up to the transition area. This is a completely new and unused Refer 15, and when they are so new, they are very, very pointy. So I now have a line here. Great. Next up, I go into Lagoon, and that one I now apply in the transition area to just lighten up that blend. So I now took a clean brush and I'm just going over the edges again. It's a very loud look. I didn't plan this to be so loud, but look at this build up. I'm a fan of eyeshadows that blend easy, but this is even for me a bit too much. Glitter glue's down and I now go into Tidal. Tidal is a velvet satin. And I apply this on the outer part. So pretty much outer third of the lid, or outer half, because I am just a bit too excited here. Now I go into Urchin, and that one I tap on in the center and blend out towards the velvet satin. Urchin, by the way, is a multi-chrome. And I also go into Ocean Glass. This is also a multi-chrome. And that one I apply here on the rest of the lid. I also went back into Archo to just intensify it a bit back. I don't want to do a monochromatic look now with the lower lash line, so I'm starting with this liner. This is the shade Punch from the ColourPop Cream BFF whatever liner. And I line the waterline with that. I go into Undertow and I very carefully apply this shade on the lower lashes, but only on the outer 2/3, and I'm trying to not blend it down too far down. Because I now go into Starfish and I apply this on the inner part of the lower lash line, and then I swipe it across the blue. Actually, Maoloa would fit here as an inner corner highlight too, but I'm using bioluminescent and tap this on. And here you have now the finished look. I did change something on the eyes. I applied the Toucan Do It liner on top of that other one. This is a yellow gold, and I felt like the other shade was a bit too weirdly in tone, so I added this one. Still not perfect. I wish I chose something else, but definitely workable. And on the lips, I skipped the lip liner because they're still a bit sore. I just applied the Izamaya lips lipstick in the shade, what's it called? It's Vanity. It's a black sheer one. So I think it's not a surprise when I tell you that Oceano is quality-wise just as beautiful as Archeo and Paleo. Personally, I'm just not a fan of this intense kickback in the mattes. I love powdery mattes that are like this. I like them. I prefer them over too hard pressed mattes that at the end just either need tons and tons of build up, or when you have a good pigment, are patchy. Talking about the mattes, I got an answer from CLIONADH. I had a problem with the shade, what was it called, Fragment here in the Archeo palette because white specks showed up. And after I used actually Oceano, I have the same thing in Starfish and in Lagoon. I DM'd CLIONADH on Instagram and they answered me that they are going to ask Maggie. She's the owner of CLIONADH and she is also the one who hand mixes these pigments. And here is the official answer from CLIONADH. It is just what I assumed. These are just not well enough blended, as they write, lightening pigment. So basically just a base pigment to give a sort of a light touch to the shade to maintain the color that they want to have in that matte. I have so thoughts about this. First of all, I understand that this is handmade. That is one of the reasons why this is so expensive, because they're fucking handmade and they are hand mixed, they are hand pressed, if I understood that correctly from other sources. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But honestly, when I pay so much money for an eyeshadow palette, it's not cheap. These are not cheap palettes. These are, as anything else from CLIONADH, investments. They are investments in beautiful makeup, and I have a bit of an expectation level for my investment and I expect better mixing. Sorry, I just want to say it here. It does not affect the performance of the eyeshadow. Let me make that clear. These eyeshadows perform like an amazing dream. This is probably one of the best matte eyeshadow formulations applied and blended that I have in my collection. Again, not a fan of some of the kickbacks, but that makes them also work so easy on the eye. But it has a bit of a bitter taste that they're not well enough mixed. Again, they work fine, but does not meet up with the price. I just want to say that. But please, if you have these and you see these white specks, it's not mold. Please don't run to Reddit. Oh my god, my CLIONADH shade has mold. They don't. It's just pigment balls and they will pop as soon as you touch them. It sounds so wrong. And the shadow is not affected in quality by this. To me, it's more so a feeling, I think, because I assume when an eyeshadow is not blended well that it goes on then patchy, that not all the pigments are mixed well together. But I mean, you saw it, they work, they perform. So maybe it's just a visual pleasing thing that I like my eyeshadow to be smooth. I don't know. I, for myself, think this has a bit of a bitter taste when you consider the high price tag. Does that mean that I don't like these palettes? Absolutely not. And I think it might be a bit surprising for you on how I rank these. My least favorite, and that's not a surprise, is Archeo. I still think that this color story is very, very busy. It's a kind of all over the place. I like the looks that I created with this, but it's fine, it's okay, and yeah. It didn't wow me color story wise. Quality wise, all of them are the same level, and honestly, I give this quality a 9.5 out of 10. But color story wise, and my personal excitement is not really here. Mainly because of the mattes. I think the mattes are just a bit all over the place. I wish these tones were a bit different because, oh, these Shimmerow here. Sulfur, Terrain, Neo, Glue, I can now read all the names to you. They are so extraordinary beautiful. I didn't expect that. This is hard now. Honestly, my initial expectation was that Oceano is going to be my favorite. But it's not. Oceano is my second favorite here. Oceano has, in my opinion, some of the most beautiful CLIONADH shades that we have ever seen. And when I look here at my eye look, do you know what I feel like? I feel like the most clear, beautiful, stunning, breathtaking view of ocean on a sunny day while I am, I don't know, like strolling through the water with my ship, my boat, whatever. I look like a luxury day out in the ocean. That is how this eye look makes me feel. And that is something that definitely is a vibe with this palette. I love the first shade too because it is very different from what you would initially think of this palette. But my clear favorite is the mix here. Paleo is just so unexpected beautiful. I don't know what I expected. It's like Paleo is the perfect child of Archeo and Oceano because of the blue cool tones and then the warm earth tones. So the most important question here, of course, is do I regret buying these? Absolutely not. I am very, very happy that at the end, I just said, fuck it, I'ma get them. After I saw the video from Millie, Back to the Brow, she was actually the one with her looks and especially her swatches in the video. She was the one that then was that bit of spark that kind of was missing to make me buy these palettes, and I'm very, very happy. CLIONADH quality is just top notch. It's very, very beautiful. So of course, let me know down below, first of all, which was your favorite look and which is your favorite palette, and is your favorite look also from your favorite palette? Very interesting. Thank you very, very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you do not miss out any videos because I do have currently a CLIONADH series going on where I spin a wheel of fortune to let fortune choose my CLIONADH shade of the day from the singles, and then I try to build some looks around that and other fun shit. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.